The NHL playoffs are usually all about momentum, and this is why I don't even have to watch the rest of the Stanley Cup Final Series. As it stands right now, Edmonton, unless Jesus himself comes and walks on water and plays right wing on the McDavid line, will not win the Stanley Cup. Now, I'll give you an example why. Let's look at the last four Stanley Cup runs for the Montreal Canadiens. In '86, they had momentum. When they played Calgary in the final, after a rough game one, they had momentum in 2, 3, 4, and 5, where they were dominating Calgary on defense. In '89, they were very tired after beating the Flyers in the semifinal, the Hextall Chelios incident. They had no momentum in the series after Ryan Walters' overtime goal in Game 3. Calgary got the momentum, they won 3 straight. '93, Montreal lost the first 2 games against Quebec. Then they won the 4 straight against Quebec, 4 straight against Buffalo, 3 straight against the Islanders. A lot of those games in overtime, they had momentum. And when they got to the final, they lost to the Kings in the first game, and then won the next 4, stopping Gretzky without a shot in Game 5. Now, 2021, it was an interesting year again. Montreal won a lot of games in overtime. They were behind 3-1 against Toronto. Toronto had a chance to wrap it up in Game 5. Montreal scored in overtime, scored in overtime in Game 6, and won Game 7. They swept Winnipeg, and then they played Vegas. Despite a loss to Vegas in overtime in that round, he had all momentum. But when he hit Tampa Bay, they hit a wall because Tampa Bay had their own momentum. You look at the first 2 games between Edmonton and Florida. Florida's had strong momentum for the whole playoffs because they're playing kind of a Jacques Lemaire trap system, a little bit of a Boston Bruins style. The Edmonton Oilers are basically not scoring enough goals. For their game to work, they need a momentum of 2 to 4 goals a game to make it work. There's no way Edmonton is going to win the series by not scoring, only scoring 1 goal against 7 for Florida in Florida. To come back to Florida, that's going to be like the Montreal series against Toronto back in '78 and '79. Those 2 series. So momentum, you see, in baseball, it's a different type of momentum. Hockey is a weird game. There's little battles going on. If you watch Edmonton, Florida, the little battles going on. Florida's goalie is making the key saves, while the Edmonton goalie is not making the key saves when he should. They're not cheap goals, but the momentum is not there. Now, Connor McDavid, is he injured? Is he not himself? Well, he's not scoring many goals, although he's been assisting on quite a few, and he had 100 he had 100 in a regular season. It's just like he seems off. That's where the momentum comes in. They won 7 games against Vancouver. They had to come back from a 3-2 deficit. And the basic theory is very rarely that a team goes 7 games in a big, huge series like they did and have enough energy for the final. Montreal against Hartford in 1986, it took them a little while to adjust against the Rangers in the semifinals. And by the time they got to the finals, it was a hard go. Like I said, you got to balance your lines. You got to balance different stuff. Now, Paul Maurice is much better coach than that guy that sounds like a reject for the New York Yankees. I don't see him as a good coach. So, I mean, is this going to be Edmonton's last chance at a Stanley Cup under McDavid era? Well, it takes an awful hard goal to make it. You got to win 12 games against pretty well top 10 teams to get to the final. Once you got there, like I said, it's been rough. But in recent years, the Western Conference is dominated. But Edmonton should look at why Colorado won, why Vegas won, especially last season, to see where they can get back some of the momentum. But it's hard coming back down from 2-0. You could do it in the round of 16 or the quarterfinals. Montreal was lucky to do it in '66 against Detroit, but they had Richard and Beliveau and all the key players, Ferguson and all the great Montreal defenders. So I'm not watching the game tonight. I know what's going to happen. It's probably Edmonton's either going to win or lose late, but it doesn't change it. I think Edmonton does not have enough to win. if they would have won game two, I would have done a different podcast. But like I said, momentum is everything, and I basically believe, ladies and gentlemen, Florida has all the momentum. It's going to take maybe 5 or 6 games, but it looks like Game 5 black in Florida. But it's too bad because, like I said, they started the season rough, and he came all the way back from that what he called early deficit, where I think they were like 29th or 30th overall in the league. It was pretty bad. But like I said, Connor's not himself, so I can only see what I see. 41 years of sports coverage tells me, if you look at the Montreal Canadiens run, the last really successful Canadian team towards the Stanley Cup, and look at '89 as well. Calgary had that momentum. You have to basically go into the final and win it by any means necessary. And if they would have had, like I said, 2 or 3 other goons and an old man and a player that was a reject from other squads, Corey Perry's like, I don't know, 87? He can only do so much. Like I said, there's no Dave Semenko on this team there, okay? There's no pests like Claude Lemieux or Kenny Linsman, like the old Edmonton teams. There's no Butch Goring. There's no, Clark Gillies, no Bobby Nystrom, no John Tonelli. You got to have the spear carriers along with the leaders. Like Lafleur was only as good as Chartrand was, or Bouchard, or Lupien opening the lanes and stuff like that. It's just kind of sad because, Edmonton fans, like, I don't know if you saw the poll, most of Canada's not watching the Stanley Cup Finals. Well, there's a reason, because they know that probably Edmonton's not going to win. Vancouver wasn't a Canadian team because I think they only had a half dozen Canadians on the squad. Boston Bruins would have done had a better go, but like I said, losing to the Panthers and Marchand, the bully on bully, that's going to be the play of the playoffs if the Panthers win the final, by the way, when Marchand was knocked off. So watch the game, take it in, whether if you want to watch the American feed or the Canadian feed. And it's kind of weird, the dead momentum, because they would not show Edmonton and in game 5 and 6 of the last series, which is kind of freaky. But I don't know, ladies and gentlemen, whether if you touch a trophy or not, if you don't have momentum. But all I remember, ladies and gentlemen, this is how it worked with Montreal in 2021, and I'm not looking down the COVID year. Again, they won 3 straight against Toronto, 4 straight against Winnipeg, 4 of 6 against Vegas. They got to the finals, they were burnt out, they had no momentum left. Weber was playing on one leg, Price was tired, all the players were tired. Half their key players on the third and fourth line only had a handful of goals. In the majority of games they won, they took it overtime, and Tampa Bay is not that type of team. They're going to score goals. Hey, I'm surprised they didn't lose 4 straight. So, ladies and gentlemen, like I said, watch the game or listen to the podcast. I'm saying Edmonton's going to win 1 game at home, but from then, get the parade ready for Panthers. It's going to be a rat parade in Florida. Thanks for listening. Bye.